the Titans' fault for that. Oh gosh, we're going to give away the best player on our football team.
Yeah, anytime you're not the full-time starter, you're going to have to contribute somewhere on game day. And I think Trey's attitude and approach to special teams has been fantastic.
What is times like been in Tennessee? I'm not shocked to see them release him with the injury designation and go on.
Let me set the stage for you guys. Picture this. It's July 26, 2025, Tennessee Titans training camp. Treylon Burks makes this absolutely insane one-handed catch that has everyone in attendance losing their minds. Finally, after 3 years of waiting, maybe this is the moment where their A.J. Brown replacement actually becomes, well, A.J. Brown. Look at what their franchise quarterback said about Treylon Burks just 3 days prior to this.
He's a real explosive receiver. I'm glad that I finally get a chance to throw to him. Almost connect on a vertical ball. But he's going to be one of our best targets this year. Not a lot of guys at his size can move like him, can break down like him. So I'm excited. Just hope he stays healthy.
But we would find out very shortly after that Treylon Burks would fracture his collarbone. And 2 days after that, the Tennessee Titans officially waved goodbye to their 2022 first round pick forever. Now you might be thinking, okay Mike, that sucks for Burks, but injuries happen in football, right? Well, here's the thing that's gonna blow your mind. The Titans could have avoided every single bit of this disaster for the cost of, and I'm not making this up, $2 million. And by the time I'm done explaining how we got here, you're gonna understand why this might be the single dumbest self-inflicted wound in modern NFL history. A trade that cost the entire previous Tennessee Titans front office and regime their jobs. Ryan Tannehill is gone. Derrick Henry plays for the Ravens, and by the way, he's pretty damn good at his job still. Mike Vrabel is coaching the New England Patriots, and you could trace all of this back to one night where everything changed for the Tennessee Titans. It's draft night, the first round, and Eagles general manager Howie Roseman is on the phone. And this should have been the #1 red flag, because if Howie Roseman is on the other line about to make a trade with you, chances are you're about to get swindled. And he can't believe what he's hearing. The Tennessee Titans, a team that just finished as the #1 seed in the entire AFC, are willing to trade away their best offensive weapon, their 24-year-old Pro Bowl receiver who just put up back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Now, at the time, the Tennessee Titans had a huge conundrum. They couldn't really figure this out. Was it Ryan Tannehill that was making A.J. Brown look like an all-pro wide receiver? Or was it A.J. Brown that was making Ryan Tannehill look like a good quarterback? Yes, this is actually something the Tennessee Titans were trying to figure out, because A.J. Brown was asking for a significant pay raise. And meanwhile in Nashville, John Robinson is making the call that would eventually cost him his job. The Titans GM had been going back and forth with A.J. Brown's agent for weeks. A.J. Brown himself would later reveal that the Titans offered him $16 million per year, with incentives that could push it to $20 million. And the craziest part is, all A.J. Brown wanted was $22 million per year, and you have to understand, these contract negotiations were going on before Devontae Adams would get traded to the Raiders, before Tyreek Hill would get traded to the Dolphins. These negotiations were going down before the gigantic wide receiver market boom. And even before that, the gap between keeping a top 5 receiver in the NFL and trading him for a draft pick was $2 million per year. That's less than what the Titans were paying their long snapper over his entire contract. But John Robinson wouldn't budge, and he would pull the trigger on this trade. And right away, you could see Mike Vrabel knew that this was the beginning of the end. I mean, this was his reaction when he found out that the Titans traded A.J. Brown for the first round pick that would become Treylon Burks. And Mike Vrabel was actively fighting against this trade. A.J. Brown later shared text messages showing Vrabel telling him we aren't trading you, and that he wouldn't trade Brown as long as he was the head coach. But Robinson had finally made up his mind. The Titans got the 18th pick and a 3rd round pick, and the Eagles immediately signed A.J. Brown to a 4-year, $100 million contract extension with $57 million guaranteed. And then came the part where the Titans tried to convince everyone, including themselves, that they had a master plan. So with that 18th pick, Tennessee selects Treylon Burks from Arkansas, 6'2", 225 pounds, ran a 4.55 40-yard dash. NFL Network draft analysts were already making the comparison. He's basically A.J. Brown 2.0. Same size, same physicality, same ability to break tackles and make contested catches. Daniel Jeremiah had him ranked 19th overall on his big board. Mel Kiper was talking about his deceptive quickness and big playability. Even Burks himself was out here at the combine saying he models his game after Deebo Samuel. The Titans faithful were buying in. This was their guy. This was going to work out perfectly. But there was just one tiny problem. Actually, scratch that. There were several massive problems that somehow every scout in Nashville missed. First, and this is important, go look at Burks' combine numbers. He has a 7.28 second 3-cone drill. That's in the 8th percentile for wide receivers. The 8th percentile. For context, that's the agility score you'd expect from a defensive tackle, not a guy you're counting on to replace your all-pro receiver. One Jets analyst called his combine results extremely daunting because of how poor his lateral movement looked. But hey, the Titans had faith, even all the way back when I made a video on the fact that Treylon Burks was vomiting in his first training camp with the Tennessee Titans. And boy, I think it's time I take a victory lap and look at the comment section of this video because Titans fans really let me have it. As a Titans fan, I'm not concerned. As a former college athlete, the first week of practice was always difficult. They always called it Hell Week. Even the guys who worked every day would struggle a bit because it's a different type of workout. Give him a few practices to get acclimated and comfortable and we'll see if he's the real deal or not. He'll be alright. Once he gets into football shape, then we'll forget about all of this. You know it's bad when you want to quit this early. And AJ Brown is somewhere laughing his ass off, having the time of his life, saying, "You should have paid me." And Titans fans had faith. And you know what? In Treylon Burks' first few games, he actually showed some flashes. Through his first 7 games, he had remarkably similar numbers to AJ Brown's rookie season. 24 receptions for 334 yards. You see, everything's fine and the plan is working. And what happened next is where this story takes a turn from disappointing to absolutely catastrophic. But before I get into that, let me just say, if you're enjoying this breaking news so far, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications because I'm going to be giving away copies of College Football 26 to a subscriber that turns on their notifications on this channel. Now let me paint you a picture of Treylon Burks' NFL career. On October of 2022, Treylon Burks suffers from turf toe and he's out for 4 games. In December of 2022, he has a concussion. He's out for 2 more games. Now, rookies get hurt sometimes. I mean, football is a physical game, but year 2 was not any different. In August of 2023, he suffered from an LCL sprain in his knee and he missed valuable training camp time. In November of 2023, he had another concussion, and this time he gets carted off the field against Pittsburgh, and it's not pretty. He misses 3 more games. You know what his final stat line was for 2023? 16 receptions, 221 receiving yards, and 0 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns in his second NFL season. But here's the part that's going to make you want to throw your phone across the room. While Treylon Burks was busy getting hurt and catching 0 touchdowns, guess what AJ Brown was doing? He was putting up 119 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Tennessee Titans in a game that happened literally days before John Robinson got fired. You can't make this stuff up. They clearly saw that game and said, damn, we made a huge mistake and we're gonna fire the guy that was responsible for this. But wait, it somehow got so much worse. By October of 2023, AJ Brown alone, one human being wearing an Eagles jersey, had more receiving yards than every single Tennessee Titans wide receiver combined. 809 yards for Brown versus 789 for the entire Titans receiving core. The Titans went from having one of the most explosive passing attacks in football to one of the most predictable offenses in football. In the past, the play action with Derrick Henry was lethal and it would leave AJ Brown wide open for those home run plays. But when you take AJ Brown out of the equation, all defenses really had to do was focus on Derrick Henry, and it became very easy to stop the Titans as a result. Fast forward to 2024 and a new coaching staff comes in with Brian Callahan. There's new hope and there's new energy, but it didn't really seem like things were looking good for Treylon Burks. I mean, this is what Brian Callahan had to say about Treylon Burks.
Yeah, anytime you're not the full-time starter, you're going to have to contribute somewhere on game day. And I think Trey's attitude and approach to special teams has been fantastic. And so I'm excited to see what he could do for him. I think he's an asset on special teams.
And then you would think the fact that the Tennessee Titans also had Nuke Hopkins on the roster, it would result in Treylon Burks being able to develop even further. But it didn't really seem like DeAndre Hopkins had a lot of faith in Treylon Burks either, saying this.
I think I answered that without like a negative sound bite. Are we sleeping on Treylon? Nein means no in German.
5 games into the season, Burks had 4 receptions for 34 yards. In October of 2024, he had an ACL injury, season over once again. The Titans had already declined his 5th-year option back in April, which was basically telling the entire NFL world that this experiment had failed completely. The front office that initially gambled on him was now gone, and Treylon Burks was a huge reason for that. But that training camp collarbone injury I mentioned at the start, that was the final nail in the coffin. 2 days following that, they would release him. So let me give you Treylon Burks' final career totals as your AJ Brown replacement. 53 receptions, 699 receiving yards, 1 touchdown in 27 games over 3 seasons. AJ Brown over that exact same span had 240 plus receptions, nearly 4,000 receiving yards, 25 touchdowns, 2 Pro Bowl selections, 2 Super Bowl appearances, one of which he won. But this isn't just about comparing two players. This is about how one stupid decision destroyed an entire franchise, and that's where the story gets really depressing. Remember how I told you the Titans were the #1 seed in 2021, the top team in the entire AFC? Well, here's what happened when they traded AJ Brown. In 2022, their first year without him, they were 7-10 and missed the playoffs completely. In 2023, they were 6-11, and Will Levis throws more interceptions than touchdowns. In 2024, they were 3-14, literally the worst record in franchise history. Ryan Tannehill's career was altered by this. His numbers fell off of a cliff without his favorite target. This man went from a 106.5 passer rating in 2021 to barely cracking 90 the next season. Mike Vrabel, the coach who fought against trading Brown, got fired. John Robinson, the GM who made the trade, got canned right after watching AJ Brown torch his team for over 100 yards. Now this brings us to one major question. Where does this compare amongst the worst trades in recent history? I'm not talking about the Herschel Walker trade, I'm talking about the more recent trades in the NFL. So if we take a look at this, we obviously have to mention the Deshaun Watson trade. The Browns traded 3 first-round picks and more for Deshaun Watson, then gave him $230 million guaranteed while he was facing 23 lawsuits. He won 11 games in 3 years, and honestly, I expect the Cleveland Browns to eventually cut him and eat the remainder of his dead money. The Broncos sent 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and 3 players to Seattle for Russell Wilson. They extended him before he even took a snap, and then released him 2 years later with an $85 million dead cap hit. Now, the Browns also traded for OBJ, giving up a first-round pick and a third-round pick, plus Jabril Peppers, and they watched him catch 5 touchdowns in 2.5 years, then released him mid-season after his dad posted a highlight video of Baker Mayfield not throwing him the football. And then there was obviously the Colts trading a first-round pick for Trent Richardson, who averaged 3.3 yards per carry and was out of the league within 2 years. All of these trades were horrible, franchise-altering mistakes that set organizations back for years. But here's what makes the AJ Brown trade potentially worse than all of them. Those teams were swinging for the fences. They were trying to get better. They were taking big risks to win championships. And meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans just cheaped out over $2 million. They had their guy. He wanted to stay in Tennessee. Do you remember how excited AJ Brown was when the Titans signed Julio Jones? The coach wanted to keep him. The fans loved him, and they let him walk over what amounts to backup quarterback money. I will never defend the fact that the Cleveland Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, but at least when they traded for Deshaun Watson, they thought they were getting a top 5 quarterback. When the Broncos traded for Russell Wilson, they thought they were getting a Hall of Famer. The Titans knew what they had in AJ Brown, a 24-year-old All-Pro who loved the team, who was just entering his prime, who had never caused any problems, and they chose their bank account over their championship window. You have to understand, the Titans could have kept AJ Brown for $22 million per year, which was way less than what Christian Kirk got from Jacksonville that same offseason. At the end of the day, the Titans didn't just trade away AJ Brown, they traded away their championship window. And hopefully this is something that other teams can learn from for the foreseeable future. Jerry Jones? I don't know if you guys heard, but Micah Parsons might be done in Dallas. We have a completely separate video. I'm going to leave a link to it in the end screen. I'm going to meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.